Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled Taber Town Council meeting for September 25th, 2023. We do first have a subdivision authority meeting. We'll go with that. And just for the record, Councillor Remford and Councillor Firth are both not able to be here tonight. Hopefully still expecting Councillor Bruin at some time over the course of the evening. So I will call the subdivision authority meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda, please. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also move.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried down. Thank you. All right, on to item 3, adoption of the minutes. Item 3.1, Mr. Thibault.
Just the regular meeting minutes in front of you from the Subdivision Authority, July 17th, 2023, for Council's consideration.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of the Subdivision Authority held on July 17th, 2023 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried now. Thank you. On to item 4, subdivision applications. Item 4.1, subdivision TT 23-0-003, 6002 54th Street. Mr. Thibault.
So we've got Ms. Selena Newberry here. She'll come and speak to the subdivision request. This did go through MPC and is coming to us with their recommendation.
All right, thank you. Ms. Newberry.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and councillors.
Good afternoon.
So we received this application to subdivide a residential lot in town. They are looking to create a lot in an existing area. So this is an older area of town. They want to subdivide off the house, create a new lot that they could put another residence on. This lot would be slightly undersized. It is at 340 square meters instead of 350 square meters. So there would be a variance that would be granted if it is approved.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? I just had one question about one of the neighbors apparently wrote in a ask. Has that been addressed or dealt with accordingly?
So, Mr. Mayor, part of the process is we send these out for the neighbors to comment, and then anything we receive written we bring to the meeting or put in the package. The majority of the comments and concerns received from this particular neighbor are dealt with other bylaws within the town. So our nuisance and unsightly premises bylaw would deal with most of them, and we do have an animal control bylaw that would deal with the others. The rest of them tend to be user concerns, and under development permits and planning, we don't regulate user, just the use. And then the other concern they had about whether it would be a moved on house or not, that is dealt with when we do the development permits. So any sort of moved on building is discretionary and would go through the MPC process, and the neighbors would be notified of any conditional approvals at that time.
I see. All right, thank you. All right, any other questions arising there? All right, seeing none, someone prepared to make that motion. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm prepared to make the motion then.
All right.
That the subdivision authority approve subdivision TT 23-0-003, lot 11, block A, plan 7092, G.G.G, within northwest quarter, section 5, township 10, range 14, west of the 4th meridian, civically described as 6002 54th Street, with the following 10 condition as informed.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried now. Thank you. On to item 4.2, subdivision TT 23-0-002, 6003 60th Avenue. Mr. Thibault.
So Selena will stick around and speak to this one. Again, this did go through MPC and is coming to us with the recommendation. We will note under item number 2, there is a bit of an amendment that has to come there. We have a hanging word that says until. I believe the amendment is to just remove the word until and put a period after the word titles. And I'll turn it over to Selena.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and councillors. So this is a industrial subdivision plan. So they're looking to create 2 lots from one. There are existing businesses on this property, so what they're looking to do is subdivide off one of the shops so that they can be on its own title. We've addressed a few things in the condition, like the concept that they need to make sure they have separate servicing for each lot once it's created. And then we are requesting that you make the recommendation with the amendment to condition number 2 to remove that last word until.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, fairly straightforward. I think someone prepared to make that motion. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the subdivision authority approve subdivision TT 23-0-002, Lot 8, Block 15, Plan 8910110, within the northeast quarter section, 5 Township Road 10, Range Road 16, west of the 4th Meridian, typically described as 6003 60th Ave, within the with the following 9 conditions as amended.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And just require someone to make a motion to close the meeting, please. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, I call the regularly scheduled Taber Town Council meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda, please. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 3, no public hearings. Item 4, adoption of minutes. Item 4.1, minutes, regular council meeting, September 11th, 2023. Mr. Tebow.
Again, the meeting minutes are in front of you for your consideration. No adjustments noticed by administration.
All right, thank you. Anything arising? So to make that required motion, Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Prepared to make a motion then.
All right.
That council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on September the 11th, 2023 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5, business arising. There are none. Item 6, bylaws. Item 6.1, first reading bylaw amendment 13-2023. Mr. Tebow.
Again, we'll get Selena Newberry to come up, and it looks like Mr. Egan to present this bylaw. We are looking for just first reading.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and councillors. We've brought to you an amendment to our land use bylaw. This is a redistricting. We are looking to redistrict the plot of land to a direct control district. We've chosen to do a direct control district because we do not have a district that works for the needs of the land and what we need to be able to permit on the land. So, and we have, this is administration driven, but we have been in contact with the landowner and through the steps of this process, so they are in line with this as well.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Within the package, I just see that there may be a note that there's adjacent agricultural operations, and I just wanted to wonder if you considered if that is going to affect this property.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Sorensen, we have taken that into consideration. The main purpose for this is to allow for a second residence on the property. It is a fairly large property, and it shouldn't have any overall impact to the the agricultural nature. And we did receive a comment from the MD as well about the agricultural, just kind of to the southeast or west as well too. So this will still be very low density.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right. All right, Councillor Sorensen.
I'd just be prepared to make a motion.
Absolutely.
The council gives first reading to bylaw 13-2023 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6.2, first reading bylaw amendment 14-2023. Mr. Tebow.
The Chris and Selena show will continue, and they'll speak to this one.
All right, thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor and Council, this again is a administration-driven amendment to our land use bylaw. We thought when we were bringing the other one forward, we would bring this forward at the same time, then we can combine our public hearings into one and save some advertising costs and stuff. We had received concerns regarding the use of accessory buildings in our downtown and the need to have better fire ratings for them. And shipping containers actually meet those really well. As it stands right now, you cannot have a shipping container in our downtown. So we did draft this with thoughts in mind about how the aesthetics of it would look. So we've included that they can only be in the rear yard, they can't be in a side yard. We've put in a condition that allows us a little more leeway to require that they're aesthetically pleasing, they meet the aesthetics of the neighborhood. So things like we can require they be painted the same color as the principal building.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Councillor Sorensen.
Yeah, I am a bit concerned as to the congestion downtown already and how we're going to be able to permit processing for this.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Sorensen. So all of these would be discretionary uses. They would need to go through the MPC. They would need to be able to locate it completely on their lot. If they can't meet their parking requirements, then they have to ask for variances and stuff as well. So, and there are a lot of buildings downtown that don't necessarily have the space to put one of these on either. But there are a few buildings where they do need more storage and they would have space behind where they can have it behind their building completely on their lot, out of the alley. But then this way, if it's up against a neighboring building, they'll be better able to meet the fire code requirements. Because right now, if you have a wood structure, it has to be a certain distance. So by the time they locate it on the property, they're losing even more parking and things like that.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in order to put a container on my property, I have to get a permit, correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Bethring, on a commercial property. Yes, on a residential property, they're only temporarily allowed, and we put in some very specific restrictions on those.
Thank you. Follow up.
Sure, absolutely.
So if that's the case, what if the neighbor beside me says, it's ugly, I don't want it there? What happens then?
We do have an appeal built into all of our conditionally approved permits, so they would be able to appeal, and if there is a valid planning reason, they would most likely prevail at an appeal. And then they get a portion of their fee back. There's a fee to cover advertising and stuff. If they are successful at their appeal, then they get some of the money back as well.
All right, sure. Thank you. I just had a question. I've noticed a few locations actually. Some of those units are actually right to the curbside, making it a traffic hazard for someone to back out of the driveway, which would be normally visible. So does that come into play at all?
Yes, they would need to meet the same setbacks as an accessory structure because they are considered an accessory structure, and those are the same setbacks as in a commercial and industrial districts as the building. So in our downtown commercial district, it's actually 0. It's a 0 lot line setback. In our industrial districts, we have different setback requirements.
Okay,
So there
I
they have
think
to be more
the
off.
place I'm thinking of is actually, it would be beyond the property line. So right, not the roadside per se, but right to the curb. Like I said, I've seen more than one that are right there. So that to me is just a little too tight. And maybe they don't have the room. I don't know. But again, it's I assume they applied for it at the time, but I don't know for sure. So is that something that like I had some complaints, and I think I did speak to Mr. Tebow about the one anyway. But I'm just a little unclear about that. If that should happen, you set it back so it's got to be to the property line max. That's a maximum location where that can jut out from the property, correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So how it would work in our downtown, because we have said that it can't be in a side yard, they could be up to the lot line at the rear of the property, because it
Okay,
also can't
yeah.
be in a front yard. It can only be in the rear yard. So it could be right on at the property line,
Right,
just like
yeah.
a fence would be.
Yeah.
Now, we do have the requirement for a corner site triangle. So if it's a property right on the corner, then they have to be 3 meters back from the corner each way as well. So there are some other things we can take into consideration for corner parcels where they put it at the back and it would,
Yeah, the place I'm talking about was residential area, so.
so,
I'm assuming you probably wouldn't have okayed that, it just happened and never got jacked up on.
there are a few around town in the residential neighborhoods that possibly have been put there without permits.
Oh, yeah, okay. Right.
Most of our
Yep.
complaints, enforcement is complaint driven.
Right, yeah,
So unless we see something that's like a life risk thing, usually it's complaint based.
okay, perfect, thank you. Counselor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am concerned about congestion downtown, and is this, are any of the grandfather clauses gonna affect this to allow people to, take advantage and not be necessarily using the setbacks as you are explaining right now?
So, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Swartzen, I just gonna make sure I'm understanding you. You're worried about previous times where they've not met requirements and being grandfathered in, and they want to put something new in and using those same.
Or like existing users and now they're grandfathered to only have certain parking spaces and now, they have this structure again and, maybe their lot is different and we're gonna maybe have to accommodate them because of the structuring plan before this bylaw is amended.
So I'm just thinking, so we do have the requirements in the bylaw. If you are a downtown business, you can provide for half of the parking. If you're an existing business downtown and you change your use, but the parking spots that were there before remain available, then you do not need a variance. But by the time you go and you put in a shipping container, which would be considered an accessory structure the same as a shed, you would be changing, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if we would consider that a change of use. That's just an accessory structure. So, but accessory, yeah. So we can look into that in between now and the second reading and come up with a better answer for you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd
Absolutely,
appreciate
sure.
that if
Yeah.
administration could, please.
All right, thank you. Counselor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can perceive there'd be some troublesome issues in this particular amendment of land use, but it is only the first reading, right? So I'm prepared to make a motion to proceed with the first reading and let the chips fall where they may for second and third, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Very well.
The council gives first reading to bylaw 14-2023 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimous. Thank you. On to item 6.3, bylaw 17-2023, proposed traffic control bylaw. Mr. Tebow.
So I'll be speaking to this bylaw for the most part, once I get to it here on the screen. There we go. So we are looking for the 4 recommended motions tonight. The 2 adjustments in this bylaw, there are 2 adjustments in this bylaw. One of them is for the Trail 77 and Satra group. So there needed to be an amendment put in place to allow them to stage over on the north side of the Trout Pond Avenue. So this allows for that while maintaining the existing ability to go, I think it's east on 64th. That still remains in this bylaw. The other adjustment is we have emergency vehicles that were actually outside of our existing bylaw from a length perspective when they're parked in the downtown or in the parking stalls downtown. So there was some research done, I believe by Chief Abella and perhaps some by Chief Munshaw, where they were looking around at the typical lengths and bylaws of those vehicle lengths in other centers. So this lines us up with the emergency vehicle lengths that we typically have in our existing fleet. So those are the 2 amendments that are in the bylaw tonight.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Counselor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if anyone looked at the fines and seen if they were up to date as to what the current fine structure, maybe.
Mr. Tebow?
That wasn't part of this exercise. We didn't review fines. To the best of my knowledge, we didn't review fines. We were just looking at the, really for the horse riding and Trail 77 agreement. And we had come across the, noticing the emergency vehicle length. And so those were the two things that were looked at, not fines.
Just with the adjustment to the vehicle length then, what's going to change there then?
I don't know if we mentioned the exact length in here. It was moving to 9 meters. And I think it was something, I don't remember what it was before that. Not that much different, but it was enough to make a difference for sticking out. So it's in section, looks like 9.1.
Okay, I think, just if I can clarify, that came up, Chief Munson, maybe you caught that, did you? Is that how this came about?
Yeah, come on up, Chief.
Thanks. I was trying to hide in the corner. Appreciate it. During some investigation, we noticed our emergency vehicles, both the police and the fire vehicles, the crew cab short boxes, were outside of those parameters. So they're about a half a foot into normal today's standard. So we had to re-increase that to make that alignment. And that's where it came from, is to bring ourselves into alignment so that we weren't giving an emergency vehicle a ticket at the end of the day, or being outside of that process by all of us, right?
Okay, fair enough,
So
but
that's how it came into
it's
fact.
basically just in front of the fire hall, right? That's
No, it's
not
both
just-
of our vehicles anywhere downtown.
Is that right?
So if we were to
okay,
park
I
a
see.
police truck downtown and give somebody
Okay.
a fine for being over length, that would be the
Okay.
same compliance that
But
their
I don't
vehicle
think
would
it's,
be. So,
this isn't gonna cause any, like, it's not a traffic hazard. I know sometimes, certain ones just stick out a little further, but
it's clean up in
go
today's
around it,
vehicles.
right? So it's,
Yeah, crew cab short box truck is
Yeah.
a standard truck that you see out in the vehicles everywhere.
Right.
And that's just cleaning that situation up, so everybody's in alignment
okay,
today.
okay. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank
Any other
you, sir.
questions? All right, some part to make the first required motion, Counselor Sorensen.
Well, I just have a comment to council whether we want to review the fee structure, or if you're okay with how it is.
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't look at that personally either, but I guess I don't think that was even in there, right? We weren't really focused on that, so, I guess if we do, this is delayed, then that's the only thing, but, I guess can we not do that in like a standing item request to go forward with that particular?
Yeah, administration can
Division.
bring this back if we want to do another. So we could do all the readings tonight. We could just do one of them or two of them and review fines if that's what council wishes to do. But we'll leave it with you, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was asking. If we delay it, then it holds us up for the approving the bylaw portion. But like I said, the fees process could be brought up as an individual item, standing items, if you're okay with that, Councilor Sorensen.
Sure, I just think if it hasn't been reviewed for a few years,
Right,
maybe it's
yeah.
time to do that at the same time.
Okay, great, thank you. Councilor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it'd be proper for Council Sorensen to bring it up with the standing item, because it is totally separate from this particular
Right.
subject of discussion, I think.
Okay,
It's in the same bylaw, but it's a different discussion, I believe, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I'm prepared to make a motion in the council gives
All right.
first reading to traffic control bylaw 17-2023 at this meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Someone prepared to make the second required motion. Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives second reading to traffic control bylaw 17-2023 at this meeting.
Right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Someone prepared to make the third required motion. Councilor Sorensen.
I think it's my turn. I make a motion that council unanimously agrees to proceed to the third and final reading of the traffic control bylaw 17-2023 at this meeting.
Great, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Someone prepared to make the fourth required motion. Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives third and final reading to traffic control bylaw 17-2023 at this meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Just to confirm, Councilor Becker had no other questions? Or She beat you to the punch. All right. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to make a comment, I think there was some good work done by the traffic committee regarding this issue. I did read the whole thing, and it makes a whole lot of sense to me, and I'm glad we passed it. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. All right, moving on to action items. Item 7, item 7.1, Alberta Community Partnership Grant Application, Regional Water. Mr. Thibault.
So if council remembers, last time, we had put forward a regional study for NACP grant for wastewater services, and Tabor was the lead on that. This is along the same lines. This is just for the water treatment services, again, from a regional perspective, and Coaldale would be taking the lead on this particular one. Again, it's up to $200,000, and there's no matching requirement by council.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council moves that the town of Tabor supports the submission of the 2023-24 Alberta Community Partnership Grant application in support of a regional water treatment facility study and allow the town of Coaldale to manage the grant project and related compliance requirements.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7.2, Alberta Community Partnership Grant Application Regional. Mr. Thibault.
So another regional grant's come forward. FCSS is heading up this one. I believe Mr. Beckering was aware of this, probably attended the meeting. So this is kind of a larger undertaking. I believe there is 16 communities that are involved in this. And this one's being headed up by the Village of Sterling. Again, it's up to a $200,000 maximum, no matching required by the town. And looking for a support letter for this.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? So prepared to make the required motion. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it did come up at our last board meeting of FCSS, and I think it's an excellent way of taking about $200,000 maximum, divide it among 16 communities, and do a really in-depth study over a 2-year period. What are the needs, or what are we doing, what are we not doing, correctly or incorrectly? So I think it's going to be money well spent, Mr. Mayor, and I'm prepared to make a motion to that effect.
All right, very well.
I move that council moves that the town of Tabor approves of participating with the Village of Sterling, who's the banker in this case, and applying to an Alberta Community Partnership and Municipal Collaboration Funding Grant to fund the Branjerica Warner Family Community Support Services Community Needs Assessment Project.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.3, Trout Pond Recreation Area Draft Master Plan. Mr. Thibault.
So we'll get Mr. Egan to come up to speak to this one. I know there are members on the committee. Actually, I guess only one member here tonight for the Trout Pond Committee. The draft master plan was presented there and is just being brought forward here for some viewing and some discussion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The town was successful in applying and receiving a grant under the 2 Billion Tree Program. Part of that grant provided for, it was a capacity building grant, and also provided for the planting of 400 trees. The Trout Pond area was selected to be the target for that work. And in order to guide that tree planting and related issues, the West Trail Committee was co-opted and brought in with consultants and administration, and together has worked over a period of several months to create this draft plan, which is a master plan that describes at a high level the intentions of the end use of the area and the types of facilities and amenities that would likely be part of a completed trout pond trout pond recreation area. At this time, we're bringing this final draft to council for council to review, question, and provide any feedback before we move to community engagement process, which we will then again garner more feedback from the larger town and MD, at which time we'll reconfigure the plan if required, and then bring it back for council approval. This master plan would then be used for subsequent year capital planning processes, where we would bring forward, administration would bring forward individual projects that would target and complete various sections on a timeline that we had a capacity and we had the funding. It also will provide an ideal focal point for potential future fundraising, and where individuals in the community might select items or want to participate in certain features in the area and in this, particularly in the Trout Pond Recreation area and plan.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question. At the very north end, it says parking lot. So are you able, so then people are going to be able to drive, I guess, all the way around this thing eventually?
So the plan, that what you see represented in that gray dotted line, which includes
Yes.
that parking lot area, would be overflow parking and parking to service the northwest side of the pond, where it talks about future group activity sites. There's 2 of them, and there would be, the intention right now is there could be vehicle traffic to bring people with accessibility issues to those areas, and that parking lot would be a little bit of an overflow area to service that west side of the pond.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Egan, has the Trail 77 trails have been incorporated into your master plan?
So right now we're just focused on the immediate area around the trout pond, but certainly there's nothing that we're seeing here that conflicts with Trail 77 or the horse riders or the other community users that are on the north side of Trout Pond Avenue that form what we're calling the larger Trout Pond Recreation Area and user groups. And so right now there are no conflicts, and we don't foresee any conflicts. Having examined Trail 77 does have they have a master planning process where they've identified future trails that they would like to construct and work towards. And I believe actually council has seen and approved that plan previously. A previous council might have seen that. I haven't seen it, and I don't.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Mr. Egan, on the map there, there's the big white rectangle. Is that oil patch stuff? Is that why that's
Yes,
excluded?
that's a CNRL lease, and they still exist.
Can't get straight, eh?
Not at this point in time.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions arising? Right, someone prepared to make that motion? Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that council approves the draft master plan of the Trout Pond Recreation Area and instructs admin to proceed with the public consultation and submit future projects in the annual capital budget process to achieve the depicted development.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 7.4, IT security management policy. Mr. Thibault?
So I believe Al's here to speak to the policy.
All right, thank you, Al.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Member
Good
of Council.
afternoon.
This is our 3 years review for our IT security incident management policy. No changes required at this time, but if Council have any questions, I'm here to answer.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Al whatsoever? Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Al, is this an annual review or every 3 years? How often do you do this?
Policies, yeah, we have to review them every 3 years.
Every 3 years, correct? Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Right, so to make the required motion, Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the IT security incident management policy CS-IT-9 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Just to confirm, Councillor Sorensen, you have any other questions? All right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you all. Oh, one more for you. Okay. All right, yes, there is. Item 7.5, information security policy CSIT 10. Mr. Tebow.
Al has the floor.
Al, you're on.
Similar to last item, another 3 years review and no more changes, so just requesting
Status
approval.
quo, all right, thank you, nothing out of the ordinary, okay. No questions arise, I'm prepared to make that motion. Counselor Sorensen?
I just appreciate the IT and all the security features that you have, especially to protect us users. And I'd like to make a motion at this time
All right, thank you.
that council adopts the information security policy CS-IT-10 as presented.
All right, thank you, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Al. All right, item 7.6, information for council. Mr. Tebow.
So under this item today, get it up here. I fell behind on my screen duties. There we go. So we have 4 items on this one. So we have the draft minutes from the traffic committee, information on the AIP program, which continues to be quite strong and quite busy for our folks that we have. We have the updated capital project listing, sort of their current status, as current as they could be. And council had mentioned or asked the question last time about letters of support coming for our regional wastewater plant. And so we did receive one from Bow Island. I think I've since received another 2 or 3 more. And I just popped those into the information for council package. So those are the 4 items in front of you. If there's any questions, I'll try and field them.
All right, thank you, Counselor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question about the reevaluating of the, there's a few projects that are under reevaluation, and so I was just wondering what changed.
All right, Mr. Tebow.
I'm looking.
I can tell you that there's the chute tri-deck mower, there's the sidearm tractor implement, and then there was the trout pond storage shed. So I was just
Okay, it looks like Mr. Egan does have some information. I know the trout
Wondering
pond shed.
what changed is all.
Yeah, the trout pond shed is probably part of the trout pond master plan, which there's been some adjustments there, but I don't know the other 2.
Yeah, the shed had originally was approved for $15,000. That the total scoping of that particular sub-project has fundamentally changed. And so we're likely to ask for this one to be canceled and then for that particular sub-project to be brought up again in rotation as we prioritize the various program of projects that will be required to see that trout pond. The 2 equipment purchases, the prices have doubled in the time. So these 2 items are up for renewal. They're at the end of their useful life, but what our intention is to limp them through another year and look at some other options, because we just can't justify coming back to council at this point in time and asking for twice the budget in order to purchase those 2 items. Because there are some different ways to perform the work. This is one of them. We only have one supplier for each one of these items, and so again, we're not comfortable proceeding either direction. So we'd like to hold those, and then we'll come up with a better plan and then return to council and likely ask for these 2 particular approvals to be rescinded, and then present you with another option that seems to be a little bit more palatable.
All right, thank you. Counselor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm not sure if you can answer this, so it might be directed to Mr. Tebow, but for the transportation master plan, does that include the repairs of existing roads and sidewalks?
I don't have that information at that level of detail on that particular plan. Public Works does long-range planning for condition assessments, and then in the 10-year capital plan, we do have items identified for both of those specific work items, but I'm not sure that they're included in this transportation plan going forward.
Yeah, it's just an ongoing question, so I just thought maybe that's part of it. So, and if I
I'm
may,
happy to
Sure,
sorry.
yeah, you bet.
I'll provide an answer to that question.
Okay, thank you.
You got a follow-up?
I do,
Sure.
if that's
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, yeah.
In regards to the Alberta immigration program, it's very successful, and I applaud everyone for their hard work. I see that there's MOUs for each community that's being added on, and so that's starting in January of 2024. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That area falls over to me now. It moved away from Chris, which is why he's backing away from the
Yeah.
microphone. But yes, there are MOUs that have been put out to start getting. We came up with a formula. It was just a population-based formula, and we've had very good reception from all the parties who are wanting to participate. And so we'll be getting some revenues back on the help that we're providing to all those other communities, and that continues to grow as well. I think last council meeting, Amy finished up here and scooted off to Milk River because they wanted her at their council meeting to have a discussion around that, and they've since agreed to participate in the plan as well. So, yeah, starting January 1st, it's no longer pro bono, and we were able to come up with sort of a fee structure for everyone.
I think that's great, because I think we had a time frame as to us approving certain commitments for that position, so that's great.
All right, thank you, Councillor Beckert.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Egan? Irrigation updates. Budget of $35,000, and you've only completed 25%. And the information provided says construction will occur summer of 2023. As far as you know, has that been occurring, or what's happening there? It's rather important. I'm not quite sure. It says parks. I don't know what that really means. Is it all the parks, or the trout pond, or what is it? Do you know, sir?
So that particular program, that's the $35,000
Yes.
for irrigation upgrades,
Yes.
is to provide for pumps and parts to do repairs on irrigation systems as they break down. So because this is for capital projects up to the third quarter, it's a little bit behind as far as the reporting. So that it's accurate that we were 25% at the end of August. It's not accurate now. We've had several line breaks, and there have been purchases of equipment required to replenish stock. So that'll be 100% by the end of the year because of the intention and the scope of the project. So our parks guys have already moved ahead in the fourth quarter. They kept it as a they used it initially. There was then they kept most of the dollars that were left on hold until these subsequent breaks happened, and now they're at a spot where they're going to buy several pumps, I believe, and replenish the part supplies that we use for just day-to-day operational work. So it was kind of an operational project. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I might have misread or misunderstood, because I thought irrigation updates was something to the effect of upgrading, or to expand, but this is just for ongoing existing facilities, right? Or-
That's right. There were
Okay.
several systems that we knew had problems,
Okay.
and we weren't sure of the exact scope of work, and so we ballparked this number to allow us to go and troubleshoot and reactivate and do the repairs to those systems.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So back to Joanne's AIP thing. So all of these communities that are now piggybacking onto our program, is it creating almost too much work for our 1 or 2 employees for this program that we have started and initiated, and now all of these other communities are wanting to piggyback onto it? And so do we need to have more, will the MOUs that are generated allow for, I keep hitting my mic, allow for the opportunity for us to hire more individuals to accommodate these needs?
So appreciate the question. We are monitoring that. There is a lot of work. They're not falling behind yet, but there could very well be. If it continues to do what it's doing, there may be an ask with the appropriate funding coming from the other locations to ask for another part-time position or something. They are getting very busy. Ryland and Shannon are on the phone or have people in their office a lot. So yes, it is. It's more successful than we thought it was going to be, So there may, right at this point, there is no ask, but appreciate the question, and there could be something come in the future if it continues to do what it's doing, yes.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Right, seeing none, no motion required on this one. On to department reports. Item 7.7. I will go through those individually. If you have a question, please stop me accordingly. First is economic development reports. Recreation and planning report. HR department report. Fire department report. Finance department report. Public Works department report. Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question as to the recycling app and maybe the projected startup date for that available to the citizens.
Chris, I'll have to ask you to, I know nothing.
It is up and running at the moment. Just looking at Al, we're very close, and so I think they just did that. And just so the communication plan, as far as broadcasting it out, advertise so people can come and find it and use it. That's kind of where we are in the project plan right now. So it should be public very quickly.
Sure, yeah, you go ahead.
I see phase 2 of the wetlands construction is going well. If you could just update us as to what that phase 2 is.
So if you think geographically, phase 2 was farther east and created the first part of the wetlands. This year, sorry, that was phase 1. Phase 2 is farther west, up against where the back of the properties are on that side of town. It's really part 2 of exactly the same scope of work. Lots of dirt moving, creating a pathway and a canal that will run down just north of the Atlantic plant. That will ultimately bring water into the wetlands from the Eureka area, which is all overland. And then phase 3, we'll work on that next summer. And that will make the connections across Highway 36 and move water officially into the entire project. It'll start to work as designed.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right. Moving on to treatment facilities reports. Facility management reports. Administrative service reports. And CAO department report. All right. No other questions. No motion required. All right. Moving on to item 7.8, Mayor and Council reports. Councillor Sorensen, please, you start us off.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're back in September, so a bit busier. I did attend the chamber meeting, which included the Cornfest wrap-up. And again, I'd like to thank the MD and the Town of Taber staff for all of their help during that event. It was very successful again this year. I attended the Heritage meeting, which the Communities in Bloom members came and provided an update, so that was very interesting. I attended the South Grow quarterly meeting in Picture Butte, and AltaLink gave a presentation on the cost of energy, which I was very uneducated on, so I learned a lot that night. They also want to just reiterate to council that there's online training that South Grow is going to do instead of in person. They're focusing on online. They find that there's more attendance that way. So if you can look in your inbox for that. And the Economic Development Summit will be held in Lethbridge this year. So it's in March of 2024. So stay tuned.
All right.
And then they have a global marketing program, and their YouTube reached 4.5 million views. So I think that's exceptional. And it's just sharing Southern Alberta and what we have to offer. So I think that's great. And I just attended a special police commission meeting this morning. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I've nothing to report. I've attended all the meetings I was required to attend, nothing earth-shaking. Like Council Sorensen said, it's September and lots of meetings again, so far so good, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was also able to attend all of my meetings as well as one of the coffee with councils on Friday evening. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. And for myself, I've had a variety of meetings to attend as well, and document signing requirements, finance involvement, etc. So many meetings in that regard. Also attended the grand opening of Pizza 73 downtown Tabor. Also under invite from Coaldale Councilor Lisa Reese and Mayor Jack Van Ryan attended the Birds of Prey Center there, and along with the owner-operator, Mr. Colin Weir, and that was very impressive 2 hours spent going through their facility. So I thank them so much for that. That was a great outing. If you haven't been there, you need to get there. It's quite impressive. Well worthwhile during the season dates. Not that day there wasn't, but I also attended the Tabor Motocross Barbecue Invite Windup and Awards Night. That was a fun evening as well, and a lot of motocross bikers and individuals, campers, etc., that take part in that particular organization. And they're very happy that our contribution related to the well that they're drilling, I think that's already happened now, this past week. So ourself, the MD, and the Tabor Shooting Club has also contributed, so they were excited, as Shelley, when she was here presenting, indicated they're very excited to get that. That's a big improvement for all the clubs involved there. I also attended a Tabor Seniors Speaking event at Tabor Public Library. Acting Chief Steve Swarbrick was there in attendance and did a great job on fire alarms, smoke detectors, etc., fire extinguisher use, and very pleasant and very well-informed event in that case. Also attended the Pasquale's Pizza grand opening downtown as well, and that's going well as I understand it, and another restaurant in close proximity for your dining needs. I also attended the Terry Fox Run fundraiser this past a little over a week ago, I guess that was. Also Coffee with Council the last Thursday, and the Tabor Special Needs Community Walkabout awareness event that was also very well attended and very well received and very well done. And that would be my report. Unless anybody's got any other questions? All right, seeing none, moving on to item 7.9, standing item council requests. Councilor Sorensen? Or sorry, Councilor Beckering?
You always say so.
I know you had one. Sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quite a number of years ago, the town of Tabor, probably 12, 13, 14, 15 years ago, did a bit of a study regarding how much water came into our plant, how much we processed, how much potable water was actually sent down the pipes, and how much people paid for. And it was a great discrepancy because there was a whole bunch of leakage, what they call water loss, right? And now I don't think it has been done for a long time. And I wonder if it's possible to do another high-level look at, because it's all numbers anyway. It's all numbers, can tell us how much we're losing in the process of processing raw water, making it potable, sending it down the pipe, sending out the invoices, and what the relationship between those are, because that gives you an indication of what your loss might be or not be, right? So, not to be long-winded about it, I'd like to make a motion to that effect, Mr. Mayor, that we study on a high-level basis the water consumption and loss of the town of Tabor. Is that clear enough?
All right. Enough information to test that? Okay. All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At Coffee with Council, it was brought up that the dog park has a lot of holes at it, and the citizen was worried that their dog could break a leg out running in the dog park, and so she was wondering if it could be a little bit more maintained, and and she also noticed that there is access to water, and so can we also like water some of the area? I know, and I talked to her about it, and I said it's really hard to maintain grass when there's a million dogs peeing out there, and she understands that, and so she was wondering maybe because there are two sections of land, so she understands, maybe the bigger area won't be, but maybe the smaller area, because she's just like, it doesn't look very nice, maybe if we could spruce it up a little bit, but she was mostly concerned that there are a lot of holes out there, and so she was just worried that running dogs around could break a leg, so I was just wondering if we could have it looked at and maybe do some maintenance out there.
All right, Mr. Tebow?
So that's a long one. I think from an operational perspective, we can certainly go out and have a look at something. It is just natural ground out there, right? So there's not any groomed grass or anything like that. That being said, I think just at the last meeting, there was a capital project passed to run water across the street. So that's happening, I think it's next week, October 2nd and 3rd or something. There's a road closure to get the 10-inch water line across to the north side of Trout Pond Avenue, which will service the upcoming community garden, the dog park, and the pump track. So water is going to change, which may give us the ability to do something a little different or a little better out there. I know we did take a bit of a beating last year with maintenance on that particular park, and so the aim is to do better. I don't know what the standing item that you want here actually might be, if there's a motion around that, or if it's just okay to understand that operationally we will go look at something and do something and assess that.
Yeah, I just think that the water availability is going to make a huge difference for the trees and whatever grass, et cetera, out there, right? So that'll make a big difference. Obviously, some more maintenance required, but it's a very, very high use, well used area. So more than justifiable, I think. Whatever we can do, anything's an improvement, right? So got to start somewhere, but I think the water availability is going to make a huge difference for sure. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I was wondering if the motocross was a part of that irrigation, because I know they've come to several meetings asking for water. So I'm not sure where they're located and if it's possible to run the line that way too.
Oh,
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, the motocross they were the people we gave the contribution to dig that well. And so, yes, they do have now, if Mayor's correct, and they did that last week, they will have access to water through the well. And I think it was $15,000 or $20,000. The MD took part, we took part. I don't know, you may actually missed that meeting.
I was here, but I thought, well, maybe they don't have to drill the well if we're running that irrigation.
Yeah, they're not in the same location. So,
Okay.
yeah, the pump
No,
track
that's,
is something
yeah.
separate from the motocross.
Okay.
that's right. Yeah, that's actually 5 miles north, roughly, on Highway 64. Right next door to the shooting range there. So it's going to serve their needs quite well out there for that addition related to water. All right, Councilor Sarson, did you want to add something further related to the initial ask about the fee
Why
structure?
not? Leave you guys in suspense no longer. I'd like administration to review and consult on bylaw number 17-2023, which included Schedule D and the fines. Is
All
that
right.
Good enough.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Any other standing item council requests? All right. Then I would ask for a motion to move into our meal break until our 5 o'clock delegation. Councilor Beckering, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. If we could reconvene the meeting, please. On to item number 8, delegations. Item 8.1, delegation, Miss Rodeo Queen Tabor, related to Miss Rodeo Queen Canada. Al?
So no one has shown up online yet, Mr. Mayor. We might give maybe Jessica a minute or two.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yes, there she is. Jesse, yes, how you doing? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, you bet.
All right. Okay, so Mr. Tebow?
Okay, so we have Jessica on the other end of the line. She's going to speak to the Miss Rodeo Queen Canada event. Jessica Ferguson, just so you're aware, we did put that letter that you provided into the package, so council has had that letter in front of them and are aware of most of those contents. I'll turn the delegation over to yourself and go ahead and tell them what it's all about and what the ask is.
Yes, you're more than welcome, Jesse. You just go ahead and do your presentation. You may have some questions as well, but you're on.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very much. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. But yeah, so I'm running for Miss Rodeo Canada in November. And part of the competition is fundraising. So I guess I have to sell ads into the Canadian Finals Rodeo program. So then the ads are supposed to be directed towards businesses or friends that wish you good luck or whatever. And the girl who basically raises the most money wins a prize. So I don't know if that interests you at all, but yeah. And then another side deal for fundraising is making a basket to auction off at the Canadian Finals Rodeo fashion show that they have each year. So the funds towards this basket go towards the Canadian sports medicine rodeo team to keep our athletes up and going healthy down the road. Yeah, so I don't know. I talked to the chamber a little bit, asking if they have any like hoodies or Tabor merchandise just to kind of support our community and get it out there, because Tabor did have 2 pro rodeos last year and one this year. So it's nice to have pro rodeo back in the town of the Tabor, as I do think it brings in a lot of outer income and things like that. I think it's good to get Tabor on the map on pro rodeo circuits again. But yeah, so I don't know if that interests you guys. I just thought I would put it out there and see what you thought.
Sure, all right. Thank you, Jesse. Any questions arising? Just to reiterate, Jesse, if you don't mind, I know we've met on that, and you kind of explain that to me. If you just kind of do a little bit more of that for council. So basically, it's a it's a booklet that Rodeo Canada is putting together, correct? And that's part of yourself as a Rodeo Queen Canada candidate to take care of some of those tasks, and advertising sales is one of them. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, just a 1-page ad or items to a basket just for fundraising.
Right. Okay. So that's all part of the criteria that all the candidates are required to do as well, right?
Yes, yep, that's correct.
Okay. So this booklet is done prior to the actual event.
Yeah, so I have a due date of October 1st. I have to have my ad in, and my basket has to be submitted prior to the competition. So the competition starts November 1st. So, yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you. Councillor Beckerian.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Ms. Ferguson, there's a recommendation here from the administration that we donate some money to in an effort to support you. But if I hear you correctly, you would like to have some what you might call swag to put in this basket. Would that be appropriate?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, question to administration then, what kind of swag do we got?
All right, Mr. Tebow.
I can probably let Miss Gary Van Ham speak to the actual swag. I know we've got a few different items. And on that note, we don't need a recommendation for that. We actually have budget for that. And so this would be one of those events that we can just put a basket like that together. But yeah, Carrie could speak to some of the goodies that we have.
Sure, Ms. Van Ham.
Thank you. Yes, council through the budget process every year supplies funding for promotional items that go to many community groups and other groups that are asking for that promote the town of Tabor, such as Communities in Bloom. So this would be another, just an ask that I could see fitting through that line. So we can absolutely put something together for Ms. Ferguson without a problem. So there's a lot of different items, the giant Jenga sets, or, we have a lot of like Bluetooth speakers and things like that. Yeah, so cups, mugs,
Awesome.
yeah, for sure.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just believe that instead of this like donation, it should just be that we're gonna do a full page ad for the $100. Is that correct? Or are we just gonna?
I
Are you
believe
just
it's
asking?
Rodeo Canada takes care of that, but they're selling, that's where the $100 comes in, to sell that page to put into their advertisement promotional booklet.
Oh, to the Miss Rodeo Queen program. Like
Yeah,
I'm
is
just
it-
thinking it just should go to the $100 is for the full page ad. Is
That's
that what
right.
I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it plugs Town of Tabor as well, and promotes what Miss Rodeo Canada is all about.
So is it worded right? Is that how you want it worded?
That was the intention, is that the $100 was the ask through the program that goes towards that full page ad.
I'd be willing to make a motion.
All right, very well.
I make a motion that council directs administration to support Miss Jessie Ferguson of the Tabor, Alberta in the Miss Rodeo Queen Canada competition and provide $100 to the Miss Rodeo Queen program to be funded from the council discretionary fund. And I'd just like to wish you good luck.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Yes, thank you. And thank you so much for your presentation, Jesse, and absolutely all the very best of luck to you.
Amazing. Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it.
Really good. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye now. All right, on to item 9, media inquiries. Any media inquiries, Mr. Tebow?
There are none.
All right, thank you. With that, I would ask for a motion to move into closed session then, please. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, one motion required. Item 10.2, Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council authorizes the lease renewal to Parkside Manor of Tabor for the property and building situated in the town of Tabor in the province of Alberta, being a portion of Lot 2, Block S, Plan 4193JK with a civic address of 4830A-50th Avenue of Tabor, Alberta for a term to expire December 31st, 2028. And directs the mayor and chief administrative officer to sign the lease renewal documents.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And just a motion to close the meeting, please. Councilor McLean. All right, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.